Oh, probably got to be in a walker this week.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. One,
Thanks.
you
guys could have it without me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but if I'm not there, then you can blame me for everything goes south. Win-win, man.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they won't let me. Right?
Yeah. I'll come and get you if I have to.
And then I tell her we work really hard here, and then she comes to a meeting. Right. She does like.
Does she?
I don't know why.
Was it my life's ever lost? Things one. Number one.
Oh, I used to have a dragon.
Like to call the finance committee the whole to order and join me in the pledge if you would. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty.
And Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell,
Here.
Commissioner Jagodzinski,
Here.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Swaney,
Here.
Commissioner Holt.
Here.
All present, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Up next will be approval of the agenda. We'll start with general public comments on agenda items only. We have a couple presentations from departments, the Information Systems Director and the Chief Public Defender. And then we have no appointments to boards and commissions, about 5 business items under Finance Committee. And no intergovernmental affairs, no administrative controller issues, no unfinished business or new business. We'll have general public comment, again, open to any topic that people would like to speak to. And then announcements and adjournment. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have an agenda. And general public comments. Anyone for general public comment? Yeah. Seeing no one for general public comment, we'll move right into the presentations. And first up, Information Systems Director, Chris Vasquez.
Everyone. Good morning.
All right, so for the IT department, we are pretty much in charge of IT support and keeping the system secure and functioning every day for the county. We have about 350 computers, about 200 mobile devices, about 400 peripherals, 10 servers, 11 networks. We are the tier 1 support for the email system, the phone system, security system, and tier 2 support for a lot of the big systems that you guys use every day, like BIS, or BSNA, BIS, JIS, all those systems. For my first year, we did do a ticket system, and that gave us about 2,200 tickets in the first year alone.
Jeez.
And that's not including the, oh, hey, while you're here, can you look at this, or the tickets that become multiple issues, or issues that we have to work with outside entities such as the state, city, tribal, the Great Lakes that we just incorporated, and the medical care facility. It also doesn't take in consideration the projects that other department heads usually need to work with us on to move forward in the infrastructure of the county. We have been very security focused in our first year. The former director, Ray, really gave us great bones to build on, and Hunter and I have been building on that as quickly as possible. I don't know, but if you knew, when I first took over, we were right in the middle of an email breach. That was not fun. Um, so the goal for this fiscal year was to really lock down our email system. And we were able to accomplish that within about a month of the fiscal year. And since then, we've had about 4 to 6 email compromises where the user was, their login information was compromised. But thankfully, due to these new security stances, there was no breach and the threat actor got no access to their emails. We've also been working for or to implement the CIS security standards. We recently had an audit on this, and it actually went pretty well. I'll pass out the former findings, the findings that we had this year, and compared to counties that are around us and or size, like compared to size wise. And if you look at that, we are better than most medium-sized counties, which we are considered as. And we actually are competing with a lot of large-scale companies or large-scale counties. So we're pretty proud of that. Moving forward, we want to hopefully start implementing more CIS standards and going towards a zero trust infrastructure, which will block most applications that are not authorized, which will hopefully protect us from a ransomware event like the city had a few years ago. That's pretty much what we do, where we're heading. I know some of the changes I've made have been fun, but it's all for the protection of this county and citizens. So, if there are any questions?
Yeah, might show my ignorance a little bit on this. But do you foresee getting rid of the physical services, going to an all cloud system? Is that something that's feasible?
So right now, I'm really trying to pump the brakes on moving one way or another. We do have a server that does need to be replaced here within the next year or two, but I want to talk with Finance Director Whitmer about that because that's the BSNA server, and I don't think BSNA Cloud is quite.
I'm not ready for it yet.
I'm not either. I've heard a lot of horror stories about it, so I'm really trying to hold off on that because I don't want to spend $100,000 on a new server. That
Sure.
And 2 years we move towards the BSNA Cloud, and that server just what are we gonna do with it now? So I do like cloud service. I think that is the way of the future, but right now I don't think we're quite ready to make that call one way or another yet.
Got a question?
Yeah.
What about the virtual private network? Are commissioners use that, or is that just, what's the story on that?
So that's a VPN.
Yeah.
We use it to essentially connect into the county's network, so that way we can remote into computers. The commissioners, I don't believe, use it. There's no real need to, because that's essentially remoting into the network to remote into a computer,
Got it.
and your guys' computers are. Right
Okay, we're already there. right?
Yeah, we are. We're actually right in the middle of improving that system.
So are we protected, by the VPN?
We're actually moving towards a new type of VPN. I believe it's called IPsec, and that will put multi-factor authentication on all of the VPN connections. But right now, the way that we have it set up is that you VPN into a computer, and we are in the middle of implementing Duo, so there's protections on the computer that you actually VPN into.
Okay, I just know that we should have more of you. We always should have, ever since Margaret. And and I know it costs money, but I don't care. And I want to know if you would be interested in applying for My Michigan grants. They're given to nonprofits.
Of course, yeah. We are actually budgeted to have a part-time person added this year, and partially that's on me. I haven't been able to get the job description quite completed yet and think about how the future of the department is going to look. Been kind of pulled all over the place, but Brian and I are actually working on that right now.
So you have to be a fortune teller, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Future.
Yeah, you have to think about like, where do I want this person to do this, and then may move this there.
I think you're gonna get gray hair.
I'm actually starting to get some. My wife is letting me know.
Your wives always do.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
What, are we providing IT support for Great Lakes, or?
Not a lot, but they actually require, like, they connect into our network. So when they have someone changes a computer password or something like that, they have I think his name's Tom, comes out or lets me know, and then I have to change it on our service or our servers. So it's not a lot for them, but still does take up time.
What do we have in place as far as the system for ransomware? Do we have insurance?
We do have
Cover us.
insurance, yes. For systems protecting it, I really don't want to say that publicly because that allows threat actors to know exactly what we're doing to get it, and then they can look up stuff that bypasses that. But we do have some security systems in place that will hopefully shut it down immediately when it sees that
Okay.
we may lose it twice or two, but hopefully nothing major, and all these servers are backed up.
Offsite then,
No, on site.
on-site?
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, yeah, thank you.
And up next is Chief Public Defender Thomas Hausman.
All right, look for that gray hair.
I don't see any credits.
Good morning. I don't have a handout, but I did make a little PowerPoint presentation. So as everybody knows, I'm the Chief Public Defender for the county. I started out with a little quote from the original case that kind of established our country's need and for public defenders. The right of one charged with crime to counsel may not be deemed fundamental and essential to fair trials in some countries, but it is in ours. From the very beginning, our state and national constitutions and laws have laid great emphasis on procedural and substantive safeguards designed to assure fair trials before impartial tribunals in which every defendant stands equal before the law. This noble ideal cannot be realized if the poor man charged with crime has to face his accusers without a lawyer to assist him. And that's from Gideon versus Wainwright, which is a U.S. Supreme Court case in 1963. That established public defenders. Before that, that right didn't exist. Kind of put together just kind of a list of our office staff there in case everyone doesn't know their names or sees them around. The next slide also has our overflow contract attorneys. So as we know, going back to our grant is, our office handles approximately 75% of all cases requiring a public defender in the county, whereas 25% go to that overflow contract. The reason for that, obviously, is our office can't handle cases where there are multiple co-defendants who might be trying to pin the blame on the other person, and we can't inside the office handle those types of cases because we would only be able to handle one of them. That just goes back to attorney-client privilege and the fact that we are a law firm and we have to follow those ethical standards that other law firms are held to. Next, I kind of started out with how misdemeanor cases progress through our system in Isabella County. And this, I kind of put the standards for MIBC later on in the slides, but this kind of helps describe a little bit of it. When we talk about misdemeanors, which is generally, crimes with a penalty less than 1 year in jail, you start out with your arraignment or your first appearance. That's where you're informed of your charges, bond is set, you're screened for indigency, which is another standard through MIDC, generally set your next court dates. Your first court date on a misdemeanor is called a settlement conference. It's usually a meeting where the attorney meets with the prosecutor, discusses the case, and a plea offer is made. You can either get it done that day or set a plea date in the future. Second court date, trial conference. Second meeting with the prosecutor to try and resolve the case. They're usually on Wednesday afternoons. Typically, you can get it resolved that day. If not, it's set for a jury trial. I think one of the important things that kind of gets glossed over is that misdemeanors in our county get filed not only by our county prosecutor, but also by the city attorney. So our office handles both, regardless of who they're charged by.
Do you know why that is?
If something happens within the city of Mount Pleasant, it goes to the city attorney. Misdemeanors that happen within the city, they go to the city attorney, which is Mr. Joe Duso. So we'll go to him. He charges those cases. So regardless, our office is involved.
Got it. Thanks.
Yep. Next slide talks about kind of felony track. Kind of more steps, more complicated. Same thing, you have your arraignment, your first appearance, where it's set court dates, bond. You have your probable cause conference, which is on Thursday mornings. Again, another meeting with the prosecutor, try and resolve the case. Typically, a plea offer is made at that point. The second date for your preliminary examination. That's a hearing in front of a judge where the prosecutor would have to prove probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause that the defendant's the one that committed it. After that, it usually gets bound over to circuit court where felonies are handled. You have a final pre-trial, another meeting with the prosecutor trying to resolve the case. Sounds like there's a lot of those. If it doesn't get resolved at that point, settlement conference, and then ultimately trial. With all of these, particularly with felonies, I think it's important to note that when there's a felony, there's two court hearings that public defenders are involved in that don't necessarily require the presence of the prosecutor, right? So that first hearing, the arraignment, always have an attorney there from our office. Okay, prosecutor's office typically is not there for that hearing. Once someone enters a plea on a felony case, they have what's called a pre-sentence interview with probation. A few years ago, the right to have counsel present at that meeting was extended. So now you also have an attorney at that meeting with probation before someone gets sentenced. So those are just two additional hearings within the felony system that our office is responsible for covering. With misdemeanors, you just have that first one, that arraignment. Now, the whole reason we kind of got to the point of having a public defender's office is back in June 2008, National Legal Aid and Defender Association published an article called "A Race to the Bottom: Speed and Savings Over Due Process, a Constitutional Crisis." Michigan at the time was one of only 7 states that provided county-funded indigent defense. Every other state in the country had state funding on some level. We were ranked 44th in per capita spending on indigent defense, spending about $7.35 per capita, and the national average was $11.86. We were spending about $2.01 to $4 per capita in Isabella County. So quite below not only the national average, but even the average in Michigan. And that was going back to our contract-based system before we had an office, right? We were typically, I was on that contract. We were getting $300 per case, $75 an hour to write and argue motions, and $400 a day for trial. That kind of goes to the next slide. So before our office was created, that's kind of where I put that. And how it differentiates from our standards through MIDC now is, investigators and experts, you had to get a court order to get one. Judge had to approve a defendant having access to an investigator or an expert for their case. Counsel at first appearance didn't have that right. Matter of fact, in our county, a lot of times defendants would go to settlement conferences, that first meeting with the prosecutor without counsel. If a plea offer was made that included no upfront jail, the court typically didn't grant them a court-appointed attorney. And it's not always about jail, right? There's other consequences. So you have driver's license sanctions or stuff like that, where jail isn't always necessarily the biggest impact on someone's life. So then back in July 2013, Michigan passed the Michigan Indigent Defense Act to kind of address that article that came out. They established the 8 standards that we'll go over here in a second. This year, I just found out a couple weeks ago that they bumped up our grant application date and it's now due at the end of March instead of April. So kind of put the fast track on that. So we're working on that right now. And along with that, 2019, Isabella County established the Public Defender's Office. And I've been in this role since the beginning of September of 2019. I'll briefly kind of go over the standards. I know we kind of talk about standard 8 a lot. That's always the hot button topic, but I'll talk about the other ones. Standard 1 is education and training of defense counsel. Every attorney in the state that handles any type of indigent defense case has to have 12 continuing legal education credits per calendar year. If you don't complete that within the calendar year, you're no longer eligible to take any indigent defense cases until you get caught up. Going through that right now. Standard 2 is the initial interview, requires attorneys to meet with clients that are in jail within 3 business days. There are certain exceptions. If someone is lodged in a MDOC facility, prison, there's some leeway there, or in another county. That's just because communication with those different agencies is sometimes a little bit more hectic, particularly with getting to, you have a client, you get appointed and they're in prison in Marquette. You're obviously not going to meet with them within 3 business days. So there's some language in there that allows that to, be within a reasonable time. If people are not in custody, then that's the standard, is you meet with them within a reasonable time. Our kind of process at this point is we send a letter out to everyone, no matter what, telling them who their attorney is, what their contact information is, so that we can kind of stay on top of that. Standard 3, experts and investigators. Counsel has a continuing duty to evaluate a case for appropriate defense investigations and expert usage. Reasonable requests must be funded. Every single expert and investigator request for any case comes to me, and I approve it. There's certainly hourly rates established by Michigan Indigent Defense Commission about how much a person can get paid as an expert and investigator based on their education and training and background. But again, prior to MIDC, all those requests went to the judge hearing the case, and they got to determine whether or not someone got an expert or investigator. Standard 4, counsel at first appearance, kind of already talked about that. That's where we have an attorney for everyone at their arraignment, where they set bond, talk about, first court dates, everything like that. That's where someone gets screened for eligibility for a public defender as well. So all of the requests for a court-appointed attorney are reviewed by our office to determine whether they qualify for a court-appointed attorney. District court arraignments in 2025, we handled 2,038 arraignments at the district court level. Circuit court level, 231. Out of all of those, only 84 chose to represent themselves.
Say lose.
Well, it's pretty hard to lose at that stage. If you do, you did something really long. So again, that's just those are things that typically our office handles where there's not a prosecutor present. Standard 5, independence from the judiciary. This one was pretty easy for our county to handle. A lot of other counties, judges had specific lists of attorneys that they would prefer to handle cases, and they would basically spot a point. And so you're sitting in the back of the courtroom and somebody comes up without attorney and they'd say, Mr. Swaney, you're up, you're representing this guy charged with homicide. And I mean, that's realistic. That happened in a lot of counties. So that one we never really had, right? Before our office, we had the contract where we had 5 or 6 of us on the contract having different percentages of cases, and it was just, you got what you got. So we didn't handle indigent defense any way that would have gotten us in trouble with standard 5 from the get-go. So that one was pretty easy. Indigent defense workloads. This is a complicated balancing Excel spreadsheet that I have. So it talks about, an attorney can only handle 150 felonies per year, 400 non-traffic misdemeanors per year. And even the term non-traffic misdemeanor is a bit of a misnomer. Non-traffic misdemeanors are, domestic violence, assault, battery, things like that typically takes some more work. Strangely enough, operating while intoxicated actually qualifies as a non-traffic misdemeanor. Don't ask me. And so it's kind of a sliding scale based on how many cases you get. Probation violations are thrown in there too. The amount of docket hours you handle, meeting arraignments, kind of get thrown in there to determine whether or not we're in compliance with standard 6. We're audited by MIDC frequently, actually throughout the year, about our progress on standard 6 and whether people are out of compliance, in compliance, close to being out of compliance, all depending on that sliding scale. Standard 7, qualification and review. This talks about basically how qualified an attorney is and what kind of case they can handle. It imposes on us additional kind of hiring requirements outside of the county. So if I have a position in my office for a felony level attorney, I have to not only comply with the Isabella County hiring standards, but also standard 7. So I have to make sure, they've handled so many trials or have so much experience to be able to not only, fulfill the county requirements, but also fulfill standard 7. Which is a good thing. I mean, it prevents someone walking in on the street a year out of law school and handling a really serious case. So in order to kind of move up those qualifications or review levels, there's a process. There's also, you have these basic requirements, but you have to fulfill all of those basic requirements before you can move up to the next level. There's also an appellate procedure in that. So I have an agreement with Muskegon County where if they have someone who thinks that they should handle felonies, but is only qualified to handle misdemeanors, I get to review that. And then we have a standing agreement with Muskegon County where the same thing, if I have someone who thinks they should be able to handle higher level cases, they can ask Muskegon County to take a look at it. Standard 8, everyone's favorite, attorney compensation. We talked about this years ago, when it first went into effect. And they implemented this one before they implemented some of the other ones, because frankly, what was going on is people were getting poached across the state. So basically there's 2 different things under standard 8. It's rates of pay for salaried public defenders, where it says that our comparables are the Michigan Attorney General for Assistant Attorney General. I put in there what essentially was my screw up in fiscal year 24. Where we put the chief assistant salary too low at a level 15C on the state wage scale, and then found out 2 weeks before the commission meeting that it was too low and they were rejecting our grant because it was too low. And so that was, I take full responsibility for that. I put it at 15C where the state was saying it had to be at a level 16. Compensation and expenses for assigned counsel, which is our hourly public defenders. Those are adjusted annually by MIDC. So for kind of put history of it, fiscal year 26, it's going to be $130 an hour for misdemeanors, $145 an hour for felonies, $155 an hour for life offense cases. If we look back just to fiscal year 24, with $100 an hour for misdemeanors, $110 an hour for felonies, and $120 an hour for life offense cases. We pay the contract attorneys monthly. I know you see that on the invoice list monthly. They submit their bills to the MAC contract manager, Ms. Keisler. She reviews them for accuracy. Then they come to me and my office manager, Aaron Peak. We double and triple check them before we, put them in BSNA and approve them. Lastly, juvenile case update. I know I was here 2 weeks ago, talked a little bit about that. I had our grant planning meeting last week with our regional director, Matt Lozen, and I asked him some more questions about it. Apparently the hang up is frankly something I've complained to MIDC about since 2019 is there seems to be a faction that says, yes, we should move forward on juveniles, but we should also include neglect and abuse cases. I've said that since 2019. So apparently there's people that agree with me. I always thought that those were kind of a collateral. Most, probably 80 to 90% of those cases involve a criminal case as well. Basically neglect and abuse cases where someone gets their children removed from their home. A lot of times due to criminal act on the other side, but they're 2 separate cases. One's handled in probate court, one's handled in the criminal court. I've always looked at it as it's a collateral consequence of the criminal action and goes along with it. Apparently some people in MIDC agree with that. Not everyone does. That's where we're at. So I'm hopeful that with FY28, we'll have movement on that. I don't believe based on my meeting last week that it's going to be FY27. But that's where that's at. Yes.
It's on the same topic. I was looking at some of these bills in Lansing, and that's Senate Bill 81 and House Bill 4070. Indigent Defense Commission expands Michigan Indigent Defense Commission Act to include youth. So have you got any information on that or any suggestions how we could, like especially that part about abuse and neglect, maybe modify what it is.
Yeah, and
Be made.
I don't know if the neglect and abuse part of it is in those bills or not. I wanna say. What was the end of 2024? Where those bills were both passed at the end of the year and then never got signed,
Oh,
and it was part of that whole thing.
that's gonna be settled by the Court of Claims now.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure, so there was a lot of confusion regarding
That's-
how that all
that's
went
for
around, so.
And the Attorney General's ruling and all that.
Yeah,
Very
so
good.
I'm, like I said, I've been hopeful for years that we would start handling them, so.
Yes.
With all the opportunities for settlement, how many, like a percentage, will agree to a plea rather than having it go to trial?
I think I mean, I can't say around the state, but I mean, just going back to law school, I think they tell you 98% of cases get resolved through plea offers. I mean, I'd say probably in Isabella County, probably felony wise, we probably only have 4 or 5 felony trials a year. Misdemeanor trials a bit more often, quite a bit more often.
Any other questions? Yeah,
Could you email me that presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna send it out about an hour ago, and I think the copy of I have may not be the same one that will up there. 'Cause I had to have Miss McKinley edit it for me.
I guess I have one more question. How many, with the assigned counsel, do they typically take the misdemeanor cases and you keep the felony cases in-house or?
Everything. It always comes down to whether there's co-defendants or, right now we're short-staffed. So we only have 1 misdemeanor attorney in our office. So a lot more misdemeanors are going out to the contract right now. At the same time, we just picked somebody else up on the contract. So, those. They'll probably get more of the misdemeanors, so you won't see as many on the billing cycle for the other 2, and there's always just, it's a balancing act.
Okay, thank you.
what's your total caseload? Look, is it increasing? Is it kind of plateaued?
I think if you look probably over the last, I'd say 10 years, just in general, caseloads are down. I mean, if you look at, the statistics I get, they all come from the Scale website.
Mhm.
So you can go county by county and look. Now, a lot of that has to do with legalization of marijuana. That took a huge misdemeanor caseload away.
Save money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that took a whole chunk of cases away. Same thing with minor in possession. That used to be a misdemeanor, now it's a civil infraction, it's basically a speeding ticket. So same thing. So misdemeanor case numbers, you can see the graph just go down just like that. And I think a lot of it is attributable to those 2 things.
Yeah. Makes sense, yeah.
I just have a statement. It's not a question, and this is for Mr. Jeff Tuma. This is an example of government work, and it's not about profit, it's about justice. A pretty big distinction, and I'm so glad that's the way it is.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll go into committee reports. And first up, number 1, Commissioner Jelzinski, would you take that one for us?
Sure.
Please?
Consider ratifying and placing on file the January 30th, 2026 invoice list in the amount of $943,931.89. February 6th, 2026 invoice list in the amount of $1,670,836.29. And the adjustment list dated January 29, 2026.
Okay, for the January 30th invoice list, general funds portion of that was $74,689.37. Some of the items paid over that were $5,000 and above advanced benefit solutions for our monthly dental and vision and prescriptions. We paid Green Scene Landscaping for snow plowing and salting for the month of December. Commission on Aging. We had some boiler system repair at the old jail. Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works had a big chunk of subrecipient payments out to their partners. Parks purchased a new Kubota tractor that was approved with our budget, fiscal year 26 budget for capital improvements, and happy to say they came in quite a bit under budget. So good job, Alexis. And then we have public defender appointments that we just talked about. We've got some utilities there for DTE Energy, for the Sheriff's Department, and then Treasurer's Office had to pay out a Michigan Tax Tribunal. They had forfeiture searches, legal services, and then they had a payout for the proceeds from a sale. Then our last one on there was appellate defender services for the trial court. For the February 6th invoice list, the general fund portion of that was $294,723.98. The big ticket items for $5,000 or more on that list were our monthly medical examiner fees. We had rent for 510 and 614 West Pickard. We've got our HATS biweekly animal control contract payment that we pay out. We had legal services. We had January snow plowing and salting for Commission on Aging. Drains had some drain maintenance on the Lewis drain. And then for Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works, we had a subrecipient payment, and then the rest of them were all their monthly rent payments. Looks like they were paying some from October through all the way out through March. We had our monthly wireless charges to Verizon. Some Murph paid their weekly contracted labor to Manpower. Had some utilities for Sheriff's Department. We've got our monthly medical service contract payment to WellPath. And then Treasurer's Office cut their third tax disbursement out for 2025. And then trial court also had their district and probate court transmittals. Any questions on that one? That brings us to the adjustments list for January 29th. And that was for review of invoices dated January 16th, invoice list dated January 16th and January 23rd. For the January 16th invoice list, there was an error found by my finance team. It was just an entry error. They corrected it to make sure we're paying out the correct mileage rate. We added Consumers Energy to make sure we didn't have to pay a late fee. Same thing for First Advantage Background, and wanted to take advantage of Gordon Food Services early payment discount. For January 23rd invoice list, we added Charter Communications and the payment to Unemployment Insurance Agency to avoid late fees, and then again added Gordon Food Service to make sure we take advantage of that early payment discount.
Okay.
Any questions on those?
I have a question for you.
Sure.
The IRS mileage rate, 2026 is set at 72.5 cents. Is that what we're,
That is correct. That is what we have.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on the invoice lists or the adjustment list? All right, hearing none, we'll move those items to next week's regular session, and item number 2, Commissioner Swing.
Consider approving resolution 2026-01 to conduct a feasibility study south interchange of Mount Pleasant legislatively directed spending items and authorize Isabella County Clerk and Board Chairperson to sign.
Good morning,
Hi.
Brian Atkinson with the Michigan Department of Transportation out of Mount Pleasant. Thanks for taking this up with us. My manager at the TSC, Jack Hoffweber, had been in discussions with Brian Smith and actually wrote Brian a letter on January 29th. I don't know if folks have a chance to.
Yeah,
look at that.
Yep.
Right here.
Just a brief summary, basically, part of the 2026 state of Michigan legislation that they legislatively directed spending item was approved, which is this LVSI we're referring to. That requires us to complete a feasibility study at the south end of Mount Pleasant to see if a ramp is warranted, basically from the business route to northbound US 127. With that, $250,000 was approved to complete the study. That was part of the Labor and Economic Opportunity (LEO) budget. And that was specifically stated to go to the Isabella County Board of Commissioners. So we're asking for you folks to support a resolution to basically let MDOT manage and complete the study. Just take it out of your hands. That's what we're here to ask.
Okay, so the monies that were approved by the legislature is just for the feasibility study,
Correct.
and then we'll go back and have something to show them that
Yeah, once the study is, so 250,000 doesn't go as far as it used to, but so it's gonna be a high level, really high level study. We'll probably try to include couple other options, not just one single ramp, but we'll try to have maybe 3 options. Consultant can provide us something to that effect, but yeah, once the study is complete, then we'll have to see what the next steps are, but there's no funding beyond the study.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I just know, excuse me, it was a high priority for Senator Halp and Representative Nyer, so that was where this was coming from, so.
I may mention,
Yeah.
so the county is just gonna act as a pass-through is what we would be doing with these funds, to get them to the DOT, that's their wheelhouse. They would certainly be able to handle that project much better than we would. And as such, with your resolution, we will not have to follow, RFP process or anything like that. It falls on DOT. They'll go through their own process, so.
Yes, sir.
I hope the study is successful and there's a option that will allow people to get back on at that location, because right now, if you get off, whether you didn't have to get a bite to eat, there's no easy way to head back to the south other than going all the way through Mission, which is a lot of traffic and long time needed.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Brian?
And item number 3, Commissioner Webb, would you?
Yep, consider approving the non-secure contract for residential services between Isabella County Trial Court, and McBride Quality Care for 3 years, beginning October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2028, with portions of the contractual costs reimbursable through the Child Care Fund, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
Okay, and Court Administrator Curtis is here with us.
Good morning. So we're bringing for the contract for McBride Quality Care. They, in conjunction with the court, the county, and Mount Pleasant Community Education, have provided non-secure services to youth in our communities and other communities for more than 20 years. Historically, these contracts have been sort of gentleman contracts over the years, though we have had some reduced to writing, but the majority of them have really been agreements outside of that. So we were able to work with the Child Care Fund, and they, it looks like they're going to agree that we can get 75% reimbursement for the entire program if we make some minor changes to operations. Which is really good news because we have only been able to get 50% reimbursement for youth that we place. So this will just be a program sort of like like day treatment is, where it's just a certain standard amount reimbursed. So that's going to be really great news. In order to be able to facilitate that, we're going to need a contract. We're asking for a 3-year contract, 2% increase each year. The current year is already approved in our budget, so that's not going to be any change to the current year's funding. So we're just hoping we can get this contract for the 3-year period so we can try out this new program and the 75% reimbursement.
Yeah, just a comment, yeah, you did a great job on this contract to get a 2% increase over and to qualify for the 75% reimbursement. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Carrie, this is a 6-bed facility, correct?
That's correct. So it's a 6-bed facility that can serve both male and female at the same time. We take youth ages 10 to 17. It all really depends on the youth that are there, and you have to be mindful of the youth that are there before you're going to place other youth there as well. There's just some of those dynamics that we tend to be careful of. These are low level. And as we work towards these minor altercations, it's going to be able to serve also youth that are under the court's jurisdiction that may need shelter care, which is really like the youth hasn't done anything wrong. They may be under the court's jurisdiction for a delinquency case, but they just need to get out of their house for a couple days to let things cool off. So that's really going to allow us to better serve not only the youth of our community, but the surrounding communities as well, because that is the shift that the current laws are asking of us. They want a gentler, more kind of rehabilitative approach.
Right, right, that's a trend. So if we have available beds, other counties can send their youth and they pay us a fee for that, correct?
That is correct. So we do screen them pretty strictly. That is done by either myself or the juvenile referee to make sure they're a good fit and that they don't have any concerns that really make them require care outside of what we can give there. They're also screened by the McBride staff as well. So yes, if there's bed availability, other counties can utilize it with approval, and then they pay a daily rate of care that comes back to the county.
Okay, and so with 6 beds, the utilization, is that pretty steady or does it vary quite a bit or?
So it's very volatile, especially right now with that shift in with the trend changing towards, the much more rehabilitative, don't put children in out-of-home care, etc. So the numbers have been pretty low right now. So that is another reason that we're looking at trying to find different ways that we can make it more viable.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will move that item to next week's agenda. And item number 4, do you want to take that one?
I can consider approving change order number 2 in the amount of $3,920 to the contract with Isabella Corporation for the total contract amount not to exceed $404,240 for renovations to the campground bathhouse at Herrick Recreation Area, and authorize the board chairman to sign the same. And we have our Director Hanson to explain this.
Morning. So the Herrick bathhouse renovation, we are done with demolition and some install phases are complete at this point, and that does include the new exterior doors on all 5 shower stalls and the 2 restroom rooms. We are done with the submittal phase, but now that we're to the install phase, something that was missed during the submittal process has come up as an issue, and that is the lock sets on these new exterior doors. So basically, the way these were spec'd out, the lock set fits the door that was ordered, the dynamics and the measurements were right. The function of the lock was not right. So what we ended up with was a product The best I can compare it to is a hotel lock, where every time that door closes, it has to be unlocked again. For our operation, that does not work. What we typically do is at the beginning of the season, we unlock the showers and the restrooms. And then unless we're cleaning or doing maintenance in the restrooms, those stay unlocked. If someone's inside the shower, there's a thumb turn so that they can keep someone from walking in on them, but otherwise they're unlocked all the time. So going to these locks would cause a drastic shift in the way that we operate that restroom and shower facility, and it would not be feasible for our organization. So we talked over different solutions and we determined that we had to get this corrected and get the lock style back to what the function was. In terms of how this happened, you know, it was spec'd this way by the architect. And I just missed it until it was brought to our attention by the builder. So I take full responsibility. Fortunately, our team is doing a very good job this year of our other capital expenses coming in under budget. So I'm still not happy about this, but as far as our operation goes, I don't see a way around correcting this lock issue and getting these done this way moving forward. So we are asking to change the contract to include this project. I didn't include it in the staff report, but I did request a further breakdown from Isabella Corp. On the materials and labor costs. And so the locks themselves priced out at about $386.56. And then we have 7 locks that this applies to. So that pricing is pretty typical for what we've seen ourselves for commercial locks. And then there's labor costs in there, a little bit of a markup from Isabella Corp. And then it actually increased our bond amount with them by $40 just because of the total contract going up. So I did get a little bit of a better breakdown of cost from them. Because $3,900 for 7 locks seems like a big number, but when I started looking at the numbers, I understand where they're coming up with that total from. So like I said, not happy about it. And in hindsight, wish I would have caught this before, obviously, but we do have to get these locks done this way or our whole operation is going to have to shift.
So the locks that were acquired, can you return those?
I'm looking into what we can do with them right now. They were ordered from a supplier up in Traverse City who we also ordered the doors from. I haven't gotten a response back on what sort of credit that would give us. But I am pursuing that with the builder. I haven't gotten a response on it yet.
Are you ordering the new locks from the same supplier?
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I did want to say there is a 4 to 6 week lead time on these locks in our campground. So for our licensing, we have to do water sampling in April and then our campground typically opens at the beginning of May. We're getting very tight on our timeline to complete the project. So that's why I wanted to bring this forward, get the locks ordered. And then I have conversations going on in terms of what we can do with the existing locks and also what the design team is willing to come to the table with as far as the cost and the impact of the project costs on this. So far I've gotten an apology from the design team, but no financial offer. So those conversations are ongoing.
Well, hopefully they come to the table, the supplier, and just try to offset the cost.
Yeah, and I've made it, I think, pretty clear to our team, including the builder and the designer, that you know we can't continue to absorb additional costs, and we've had some pretty blunt conversations about it. So I'm trying to move this forward so we don't have delays with our project, but working on resolutions with our design team still as well.
It's someone who often gets wrong parts for the order stuff. Usually most companies will return.
Yeah, and like I said, if I do get a number on if there's a possible credit back to us on that, I'll try to update the board.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will move that item to next week's meeting. Brings us down to item 5 and Mr. Campbell, would you present that for us?
Sure. Consider scheduling an in-person Isabella County Board of Commissioners special meeting for the purpose of goal setting on Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 at 2 p.m. in room A of the Isabella County Commissions on Aging location at
2200 South Lincoln, Mount Pleasant, Michigan, 48858.
Okay. And we've done this for the past few years. I don't remember exactly when we started doing it, but try to keep it very informal. Try to give department heads a chance to chime in, with whatever it is they want to talk about. Chance to review our capital improvement plan with the facilities director. And just talk about what are the big ticket items on our plate.
I believe that's after finance committee meeting in the morning, so.
Yep.
Is this a meeting that people could write in questions to be talked about on the new building?
It hasn't worked that way in the past, but it certainly is something to think about. Doing for this meeting, we've also talked about a town hall style meeting for that purpose. I don't know if that is this meeting.
Okay.
I think, need to think about whether.
Yeah,
we
we've
need
also
to-
kind of talked about how to submit questions where maybe we can address them at the board meetings or at this meeting.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
We've been trying to figure a good way to do that. We haven't quite how to figure out to do that yet, but we want to be able to get questions and answer them. as they come. We answer a lot of them at our separate meetings and stuff.
But is that something that we could actually possibly put on our website for people to ask questions and then we can consolidate possibly the data?
For Chris.
He snuck out. Yeah.
He snuck out, but yeah. Or they could send them right to our emails, which is on there too, so.
I just thought if we had like a simple form,
Q&A.
Like, seems like appropriate, for people to, if they have a question, to submit an email to administration or chair or their commissioner.
Geez,
We can, yeah, I think especially the chair is a good spot. Send,
That's only another
I
100
mean,
more emails I gotta go through
I
a day,
understand
right?
it's like, it's not as easy for tabulation, but.
That's something we've been trying to figure out how to open up, even though, all our meetings are online and, they can go back and watch them but how to actually do the little bit better answering questions that we get, so.
This meeting's at 2 p.m. too, so it might not be the greatest time for the public to be present and
But,
people are working,
but if they submit questions and know they're gonna be answered during, I don't know, it's usually a long meeting anyway, but because we usually have a lot of finance stuff to talk about.
Go ahead.
Didn't we used to have reporters here? I mean, I remember when Eric Barron was there
We did.
for a good way to outreach. Maybe CMU, they cover.
CMU covers our meeting pretty good now. I know we took it out of our bylaws, but when we did, as far as having cards at our meeting where they could fill out questionnaire cards and we can either get to them that meeting or the next meeting, but we kind of took it off because no one ever filled them out, but maybe we didn't promote it enough. But those are some of the conversations we've been trying to handle, how to handle the questions.
So I take it administration will probably come out with a list of proposed topics that we can add to. If we have some suggestions.
Absolutely. We'll be using our scenario software for sure. Looking at those, 10-year forecasts and maybe even further out. I mean, like Commissioner Sweeney mentioned, financially, there's a lot of goals, right? I mean, we have the administration building we're talking about and quite a few things. So, yeah.
I think we just try to make it more like a brainstorming. So really just of course, I'm used to throwing out real crazy ideas, but to get conversations going and just, just not so structured. So we can just sit down and discuss.
Things go smoother when you have things listed on agenda and I can, like, I don't know what Commissioner Jalazinski is thinking about, but if I see it on the agenda, I can start thinking about it before that meeting. I'm not so good at having an instant overall thought profile on other people's ideas and how it impacts
I know,
instantly.
I know we'll have topics on there, but I'm just saying that it's open for anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I know
there will definitely be an agenda.
there'll be agenda and there'll be a lot of probably stuff on the building that's, as we progress through while that's going, and ideas and, so.
A lot of the questions, I think, that Commissioner Weber brought up have to do with the administration building and maybe we need a separate evening meeting
Yeah.
just to talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I don't know. Not that people can't bring questions to this goal setting meeting. They certainly can, and there will be public comment to start and then again at the end, but possibly, I know we've kicked around the idea of a separate meeting just for the administration building.
Yeah.
And we've been kind of waiting to get a little bit more numbers.
Yeah, so we've got
Sure.
something a
So we
little more
got something,
solid.
so we can actually compare.
Well,
Yep. Because these are estimates, they're,
Right.
what they are is estimates. And yeah, once we get the solid numbers, then it's easy to compare lease to building, different scenarios.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Any other comments, questions? All right, we'll move that to next week's meeting. And that brings us down to general public comments. And so no one for general public comment? Announcement. Any announcements? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Marino.
We're adjourned at 11:01.
I'd say it was a very fruitful meeting.
Yeah.